Guys, I found this one pretty interesting. This is the time of year where automakers begin to roll out their new lines, but there's still one company that is selling a vehicle that first debuted 15 years ago. The Ram 1500 Classic pickup was first introduced back in 2008 when it was still a Dodge Ram. They've since become their own brand. So it seems to be standing the test of time. So I have to wonder, in this era of constant change, are there any financial strategies that have done the same, that have also stood the test of time?
You know, we talk a lot about the philosophy behind the independent income system, which is the approach that we've been talking about on the radio here for over 20 years now. And if you haven't had a chance to look at that investment advice, you know, I would encourage you to go and Google independent income system. We've got a updated video from more recent, and we have a video of me talking about it years ago. I had a little less gray hair and, you know, still said the same things that have kind of stood the test of time, which is to look at your money and look at it in different time frames, to utilize your money, you know, for different purposes. That I think is a core philosophy of something that can stand the test of time. But if you look at it, I think there's also some more things that can stand the test of time. I also had an opportunity where I went out to Yale and I had an opportunity to review Dr. Roger Ibbotson and Professor Getzman. If you haven't seen that video, you can go over to our YouTube channel. Just type in America's Retirement Headquarters on YouTube and look for that video. But in going over that video, Dr. Getzman is a historian, an actuarial historian. So they have a lot of these documents that came over from the shipyards in the library in a secured location that he gets the ability to sit down and do things like what we love, be numbers nerds and figure stuff out. But one of the things that he passed around was one of the first annuity contracts that came out, you know, from hundreds of years ago, and talking about a vehicle that stood the test of time. A couple other, I guess, things that I would say that, you know, an investor should expect with the test of time is expect volatility. Don't try to time the markets. You still always need to have an emergency fund. You want to diversify, but do it with a laser focus. And you want to understand different risk and or eliminate them. And last is to get professional advice. I always think, you know, for decades and hundreds of years, getting professional advice from somebody who specializes in that category can be a strategy that can stand the test of times.
Yeah, I would agree. There's a couple that come to mind, actually. I'm thinking back to Harry Markowitz and kind of like some of the forefathers of the industry of just developing the concept of diversification. And back in the 1960s, this was what we call modern portfolio theory today. But at the time, it was Nobel Prize winning concepts about how actually adding risk into the portfolio actually reduces the overall risk of your investment returns. And so I think that's a big one, is diversifying your investments, not putting all of your eggs in one basket. And that's actually even biblical when you look at that concept there. Buy and hold is a big one for me. I just have always been of the opinion that it's very hard to beat the market, but you can be the market. And so, you know, focusing on being the market, staying in, in all the ups and all the downs sometimes is going to be a better strategy, especially if you look at 2023. I think a big part of the gains in 2023 were like the first quarter of the year. And so if you're out of the market during those 3 months of the year, your return is going to be very much different than what the market is. And I think there's a lot of statistics that show that the average investor gets 2% where the market does 10 on average. It's because we're constantly fiddling with it, buying and selling, getting in and out of the market. Those strategies are sometimes not the best ones for a long-term investor. And I know this is a big one, Nolan, but dividend investing. A lot of people don't know this, but dividend investing, we call it the inflation killer. Not only has the stock market increased over time, I want to say by a factor of like eight times since the last 30 years, but the dividend has increased substantially as well. And so that's one of the few areas where an investor can kind of keep up with inflation and essentially just clip the dividends, live on the interest that some of the stocks are paying you, and not have to worry about as much about inflation. So to me, those are some of the big ones. But I think the real power is in combining all of those strategies, and that's where I think the independent income system has been so successful and so effective, is because each bucket pretty much has, some of those characteristics. For instance, the long-term bucket, the 10 to 20-year bucket, might have may be leaning more towards the buy and hold, whereas maybe some of that middle term area, that 3 to 5 bucket, may be more value oriented or dividend oriented investments, and then you've got your cash. So we're diversifying, but yet we still have features of all of those characteristics of the market that have weathered the test of time and have been successful in the long term.
Part of the reason that the Ram, the 1500 Classic, is still available is because it is so popular, because people really do enjoy it. It has stood the test of time, just like the independent income system, as Nolan and Chaz have pointed out there. You can find out more about it by just going to Google and typing in independent income system. The video pops up there. And again, you can schedule a time as well to speak with America's Retirement Headquarters, see how that applies to your retirement, how it can work for your retirement, and look at the things that are going to work best for you. 419-794-3030, and the website is arhq.com.